I've had a lot of my friends, more people than I can count on my hands, that have died prematurely for various reasons. So I always encourage, especially when you have a young family, make sure no matter what happens to you, no matter what happens to your family, they're going to be okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Underground Kings podcast. Today, I am joined by my friend Wes. Wes, how you doing?
I'm good. Good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
So tell everybody a little bit about what it is that you do for work.
Yeah. So I work for New York Life. So I work a lot in the financial advising industry, helping out with individuals, families, business with life insurance, financial planning, and just overall kind of financial peace of mind.
Awesome. So let's just go ahead and start going off the rails. You're going to learn fairly quickly that that's what we do on this podcast. You are how old?
28.
28 years old. So you're 28. I'm 24. Last guy, Lav, that was on, he was 26. You know, cool. There's definitely seems to be this gravitation on the age of our guests. Yeah. And it's very interesting to see and meet the young people that are here in the Myrtle Beach area. You know, it's hard to come by anywhere, let alone here in Myrtle Beach, you know, young, driven males that
everyone comes to Myrtle Beach to retire.
That's right.
It's a lot different. Yeah,
that's right. How long have you been in Myrtle Beach?
So I came here in 2016. Actually came here to play soccer at Coastal Carolina. Transferred in, came for 2 years, graduated 2018, and then I ended up just staying here. Found some opportunities for work, met my fiance now, and I haven't really left the beach.
Shout out Gabby.
Yeah, shout out to Gabby. That's right.
So sports. I know you were very heavily with soccer. That was the primary sport.
Yeah. So I grew up playing soccer my whole life. That was literally everything I did. Ended up going to a small D1 school, UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City, my first year. I didn't play for 3 years. I've had 7 surgeries. They told me I'd never play soccer again, and I didn't listen. And I took the only school that kept their scholarship, and I stayed there for 2 years. Realized, hey, I can actually play still. I want to go to a good school. So I found every top 25 school in the nation, sent out some emails, and Coastal was big on my radar. Being by the beach, being a top 10 program at the time, it was something that I really dreamed of, and that's really why I came here. And soccer made that happen pretty much.
7 surgeries. That's a lot of surgeries.
Yeah, from when I was 16 to 18, I didn't play a minute of soccer.
That's unbelievable.
All the colleges pulled out of their scholarships. A lot of weird times in this, for sure.
So for anyone to go through 7 surgeries, regardless, you know, that's a whole story in and of itself.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But to go through 7 surgeries for a sport that you love, and then to come back to play that sport, I mean, you had to have had an innate love for the sport of soccer.
Yeah, it was very mental. Very mental at the time. I had my first one was a hernia when I was 16, and the real issue was you know, when I was 15, I made Sporting Kansas City Academy, which was a massive accomplishment for me. It was my goal growing up. That transpired a lot more things of training with the first team, training with the professional team, playing in those reserve games, and then after a year of that, I had a really good momentum. I thought I was doing really well. You know, the goal was to always go pro, and then I had my first hernia that I had to have surgery on. I came back 1 day later in practice and broke my foot. That turned into my foot shattering and bone graft, screws, pins, all that stuff, which left me out for another 2 years. But it was a mental battle, you know, especially being 16 and 17 in high school, having to face that and go through that. Made a lot of dumb decisions just being a kid and making excuses and just not making the correct decisions. And really over my life, I really think that's taught me a lot because, you know, going through that hard time, yes, it was very difficult, but, you know, it got me through a lot. And if you can go through those certain things, you can go through a lot of things in life. So it was really just about me wanting to get back on the field, finding my passion, finding my love for it. You know, after my first foot surgery, they told me, hey, we need to do, I forget what it's called now, but laser your foot. I don't know what it's called. You're never going to play soccer again after that. Telling a 16-year-old kid that, it's not going to go very well, you know, and that really shattered a lot of my dreams at the time. So I ended up having to see multiple other doctors. I actually flew out to Santa Barbara to see the national team doctor at the time. I got a special surgery that ended up going very, very well, obviously. And it took another 2 years, but I got back playing my freshman year of college after all that.
Wow.
It was quite a journey, that's for sure.
Wow. Yeah. It goes to show, you know, with anything in life, if you want it bad enough, you know, as many roadblocks that are going to come up. Like, obviously, you know, if you ended up losing the foot, you might have had to figure out a new
different
profession.
Story. Yeah,
But the reality of the fact is, had you not loved soccer enough, had you not wanted to be a soccer player as bad as you did, there's no chance you would have bounced back from all of that.
No, I mean, I never thought of my life without soccer. And it was weird after I graduated Coastal. You know, I kind of told myself, hey, I've had 7 surgeries. It's time to stop. You know, there's no reason for me to keep going on and hurting myself because, I mean, the pain that I'm still in now with my foot and my hernias is still pretty significant. And, you know, it definitely kind of taught me a lot, like I said, and it really showed that if you have passion for something and you really love something, no matter what happens, you can find a way to get there. And I think that's just kind of with anything in life. You can always make excuses for, I want to do this, I want to do that, and there's going to be roadblocks in the way. That's with anything. But, I mean, really anyone can push through it. And it was a battle, and, you know, obviously without my family was a big, big supporter of me getting back on the field. And I always thought of, hey, I could stop playing soccer. It would be so easy to be a normal college student. Just to not do any athletics, I mean, it would be amazing, right? But I really couldn't picture my life without it. I also couldn't picture without an athletic scholarship because school is very expensive. And I am not the brightest academically. So, you know, it goes hand in hand. But, yeah, there's definitely a lot of roadblocks when I started that. But, you know, I always had the mindset. I always had the goal of getting back out there and playing.
That's awesome. I was just having a conversation about this with some friends the other night, actually. So it's funny.
Really?
This conversation is going to work perfectly. What is your opinion on the debate of whether or not college students should be paid for certain things?
Oh, that's a great question. I think right now it really depends the sport you're in. I think if you're in a sport like soccer that doesn't really bring a lot of revenue to the program, it doesn't make sense. Now for football, I mean, football is the one that stands out the most for me, right? Football and basketball. When you're bringing in stadiums that are packed of tens of thousands of people and selling merchandise and all that profit goes to the school and those student athletes don't see a dime, they do in a way with their scholarships and everything like that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's astronomically different from getting money. So I think it's a work in progress. I don't think it's something that you can flip a switch in the next year. Student athletes get money like that. But I think it's something that has been talked about in the last couple of years, and I think it's making progress in terms of football players, especially getting sponsorship programs to get money like that. But yeah, that's a big. It depends on the sport. It depends on the money they bring in. But how do you make that equal to every school, to every athlete, to every sport is the question.
Right. It's very difficult. It would have to be. You would think it would have to be regulated at the national level, maybe the state level.
Yeah. And then you're also talking about, I mean, soccer specifically, bringing in individuals that aren't from the U.S. and what those foreign contracts mean, and if that makes sense, and if you're being taxed on this, and there's so many moving pieces, right? But I think in terms of football and basketball specifically, there definitely needs to be a bit more. My personal opinion, doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but the money that they bring into those football programs, I mean, I was the financial controller for Aramark at the university. I have a pretty good idea of how much money they bring in, and it's a massive amount. So yeah, I think in the future it'll happen. It's just going to take some time, some figuring out what works best and how to do it the right way.
I agree.
Yeah.
At the least, I would think the easiest way to start to implement it, or maybe like see what it would look like before putting it into full implementation, would be something along the lines of players being able to sell their name to, to have jerseys with their names on the back, and they get, a commission pay, or they get a portion of whatever the sales are of their jersey.
Agreed.
But then, of course, and the reason I say a test phase is because that alone is nowhere near, I would assume, what the amount that they're making on tickets.
No, you're talking about ticket sales, concession sales. I mean, so much that goes into that. That's not just ticket sales. Then you're talking about sponsorships, endorsements. Coastal's has gotten massive the last couple of years, but it's still, you want to talk about massive, go to a Clemson game.
Yeah.
Go to a USC game, hundreds, millions of dollars, all right there. So it'd be interesting to see in the next couple of years. I joked around with my brother, so he's talking about going to college now for soccer as well. I was like, maybe by the time you're in college, you'll get paid for it. I don't think he's there, nor do I think soccer is going to get paid anytime soon. But it was just a funny conversation we had.
How old is you got how many?
I have one younger brother, 17. Yeah, we're 10 and a half years apart. Him and I were just talking this week, actually. We're sending out some stuff to schools. He's been talking to some schools, doing some visits. It's just kind of fun to do. I remember those times of how nervous I was talking to a coach. Thinking about it now, I was like, it's not a big deal at all. But he's going to visit a couple. He's back in Kansas City as well playing, and he's played his whole life as well. So
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool to see, though.
Is he looking to go D1 maybe?
Maybe. Yeah, he's looking at a couple local schools, looking at a couple D1 schools. Luckily, I have a lot of good friends that coach now, too. So they're asking about him as well. Trying to get him to go to Hawaii just so I have a reason to go visit Hawaii all the time. But we'll see. I think he wants to stay close to home. And I mean, I did the same thing, so I can't blame him by any means.
So what's your relationship like with your younger brother? Because 10 years, so I have a younger brother too. It's only 2.5 years though. And I know he and I just from a young age and also being, raised in a good household, but also just some of the trials and tribulations that come with life, they really bring, especially when you're talking about an older and a younger brother, really just brings them together and they just become one force to be reckoned with. So I'm interested to hear what your relationship is with your brother with that kind of an age gap.
It's honestly very, very good. He was always a bit so I'm very much like my dad, and my brother's very much like my mom. And I was always a lot bigger growing up. I was the bigger one in class, and he was the runt of the class. So all the way until I think 4th or 5th grade, he was the youngest in his class, which is very weird. So I had 2 neighbors growing up, and they're like my older brothers to me too. And talking about picking on someone their whole life, my little brother Owen got picked on every single day. And it was weird because I moved when I was 22. I came to Coastal, and so he was just 11 or 12. And then I only saw him every summer and every Christmas. Same with my family. And it was really, really strange because I didn't have the best relationship with my parents. Still had a good relationship. But when I moved, it was like everything seemed to change somehow. My relationship got stronger with them. I kept in contact with them. Everything I did, we always kept in touch. It was like the distance somehow made us closer. Sounds very strange, but it really did. And my brother and I talk all the time now. But we have such a good relationship. But it's just weird seeing him. I see him once a year, maybe twice a year if I'm lucky. And it's like he grows every single time I've seen him. And it's like, holy shit, where did my little brother go? He's about to be 18 years old. And I still remember him vividly as an 8-year-old, 10-year-old kid. And so it's weird. I don't get to see him grow up every single day and see that transgression as much. But I've got to see him, glimpses of it. I still talk to him every single week. We FaceTime. We talk all the time. We talk soccer. We talk a bunch of stuff. But in person, it's so much different, and we always love every single time we see each other, and we try and see each other more. It's just things get busy. He travels for soccer every single weekend. Things stay busy with work. It always works out like that. But we have a great relationship. It's very weird to see each year. He's as tall as me now. And last time I saw him, he might have been like 5'9", and I'm 6 foot. And then I see him, and I saw him a month and a half ago, and I gave him a hug, and I looked at him eye to eye. I was like, holy shit, what just happened? What happened to you in the last 8 months that I missed? And it's like he just grew up essentially. So it's very weird moving away and not seeing them as much. But we have such a strong relationship, my family, my brother. Really lucky with that aspect, yeah. I'm
literally right there with you, having just moved away from my family for the first time a little over a year ago. But very similar dynamic change. It was like my father and I are so much closer since I moved when we do see each other. We were always close, but the relationship really blossoms. And in my opinion, it's probably due to the fact that I was whether I even knew it or not, living my life in a way that was semi-tailored to the fact that I'm living in their household, living off of them. I'm dependent on them still to some extent. Yeah. And as soon as I regained that level of independence, I was able to fully become the man that I wanted to be. And now it's funny because my relationship with my father, when I think even just a year and a half ago, it was very much a boy and his father. And now it's much more when we meet and we sit down and we have conversations or do things, it's very much a man sitting down with his father and talking at an equal level. Same with my brother. It's like, you know, we have we've always had a very strong relationship. But, you know, I always look forward to going to see him. He just FaceTimed me today, like a couple hours ago. And, you know, he's building a house this year.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot for sure. And he's currently trying to put the finishing touches on it so it's winterized before the snow hits. And the snow's hitting.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. So he FaceTimes me, and he's walking around. They got it framed up and everything with it, foundations poured within a month. And but he gets on, and there's snow all over. This screen's all fogged up. He's got a full beard. And
That's
I'm
what
like,
I don't miss. Gosh, no. I think there's something, too, about just moving away in general. I mean, I went to a school afterwards that was 45 minutes away from home. My mom still wanted to come pick up my laundry when I was living in a dorm. She still would drive by and say, hey, I'm by your dorm. Do you want me to get your laundry for you? No, Mom, piss off. I'm a grown man now. Leave me alone. So I think there was something to me about moving so far away, and I never had this intention. And, you know, my parents, my grandparents, all my family never really left Kansas City. And that's okay. Like, nothing wrong with them. They're all great people. But something about me moving away, like you said, made me be myself without being dependent, made me independent on my own, which is what I challenged my brother to do as well. And I'm completely happy whatever he chooses, if he wants to stay local, if he wants to go far away. But something about being on your own, traveling far away, because I moved here knowing not a single person.
Same here.
Brand new experience. I've never been on the East Coast before I came here. I was terrified. And something about that feeling and that moment of having to adapt, be yourself, be independent, and find out who you really are, I think it's something that really changed my perspective about just traveling in general and being a part of other cultures and just being on your own, which I think everyone needs to experience in some type of way. It's just a matter of finding your own path with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. This is like scary similar. I went to college 40 minutes from my hometown.
Yep.
My parents, my entire extended family, both sets of grandparents all lived in the same little town. Yep. And no one in my family really had ever left. And if they left, my parents left at one point to Long Island, and then they ended up coming back, you know, years after. But most people, they would leave or come back. And I always knew that I knew from a young age that if I wanted to, it was really the second that I accepted the fact that I was maybe just a little bit different than a lot of the other kids, that I wasn't really thinking about the same things that they were. You know, they thought school and impressing, you know, the teachers and peers was important.
Right.
And I was more like, I just didn't give a fuck from a very young age. Yeah. And, but learning that about myself, like even you talk about your brother doing the college Common App or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I didn't even do my college applications. Shout out to a girl named Emma DeSogra. That was in my class. She was an absolute sweetheart. She was the valedictorian of my class, you know, just wicked smart, always working hard in school. And, but she knew me and knew the way that I was. And she filled out my Common App for me. And then basically like set it in front of me on the date that it needed to be submitted. And I had, the whole thing was tailored. The whole thing was, and it's funny because I was really good at school. School came very, very, very easily to me. And that's why it bored me. It bored me just dead. But she filled that out, and I had the whole thing set up for my whole senior year. I had fully committed to or decided with my parents, without all my peers, with her that was filling out my Common App, that I was going to go for mechanical engineering. I always liked learning how things worked and stuff like that. Yeah. And the the night, I think it was the night or 2 nights prior to applications being due, where you would send them out. We're at the end of my senior year now. I watched the Wolf of Wall Street movie.
Oh gosh.
For the first time.
Get you hyped up there.
And I was seeing like just, suits and beating and all the money and all these things, the women, all this stuff that like a young man wants. Yeah. And I went in, and for the first time I really went against like an agreement that I had with, my parents and everybody. Yeah. And for the first time I stepped out, and I went in there, and I remember she goes, "Are you ready to submit this?" And I said, I just literally remember staring at her and just going, change the place of study. She's like, "What do you want to change it to? Like what like something else engineering wise?" I said, "Change it to business." She did. Oh, and I sent it in.
Yeah.
And I remember going home, and my father said, today the applications were due, how'd it go? I said, "Well, I'm going to college for business now." And he looked a little ill for sure.
Really?
But then he was like, I explained it to him, and obviously I had construed a smarter response for him than like I had watched Wolf of Wall Street. And
I hope so.
But it went over pretty well. We visited all those colleges, and yeah, that was what'd you go to school for?
Business as well.
Okay.
But the funny thing is I picked business because it was the most generic thing I could think of.
It really is.
Honestly, business administration.
That's what I went for. Yeah. Business admin, and I added marketing.
So business admin, and the funny thing is I did business admin at my last school. I transferred to Coastal. Business admin still. I lost a whole year when I transferred to Coastal. So I lost 27 credit hours is what I lost. Jesus. And so I'm like, okay, business admin, business. That's it. It's the most generic thing I can think of. I don't know what I want to do. I just want to play soccer. That's it. I had a class. It was like a finance 101 class. I forget the teacher's name now, but I realized I was like, man, I really love finance. The only issue was it was my spring semester of my junior year that I realized I like finance. I said, hey, I want to change to finance my senior year. What can I do? Got denied. Got denied by my advisor. And I said, nope, I still want to do it. I'm pretty sure. And they're like, no, you can't. You have to take, so at the time there's 400 level classes in your capstone you have to take. And you take them over a 2-year period. And so I said, I went behind my advisor at the time, and I went to the dean, and then I went to the professor that I was really close with, Dr. Whitledge. That's who it is. And I said, hey, I want to change to finance. What do I have to do? Like, oh, well, no one's ever, this isn't a thing. You don't do 400 level classes one semester in your capstone. No one does it. Especially being a student athlete, you can't do it. Okay, if I get something signed by my coach, will you take it? He's like, yeah, probably. So talk about being the perks of a student athlete sometime is you get away with things. Maybe. I don't know. But I changed to finance my senior year. Took 400 level classes in my capstone. And then my spring semester, I finished it all out.
Oh, my God.
I'm not supposed to do that. I don't recommend it to anyone because it was the worst semester of my life and being in season for soccer. And I'm not saying I got good grades with him, but I made it through and passed. So, yeah. Started as business as well and turned into finance.
That's awesome.
But it took me 4 years to figure that out. Of cost to figure that out. And then my parents also said, "You're absolutely insane. Don't do this." I said, "Okay, Mom, I'm going to do it."
You did it.
Which, like everything I normally do, and she says no.
So, that's what young boys are supposed to do.
Yeah. But business admin, it's just funny because so many people start out with that, and then you have to figure it out.
If you don't branch out, you're screwed.
If you don't, then you're kind of stuck with the generic one. Not saying that's bad, but later on, you kind of figure out what you really like to do and go into that field, essentially. Yeah.
Now, do you feel like so what was your first job out of college graduating with that degree?
So I got an internship my spring semester before I graduated. That internship turned out, and I was an intern doing essentially all the cash control for Airmark at the time. All the registers, there was 90-something registers around the university. They'd send me all the cash. I would count it, verify it, put it in the vault, send it off, do all the accounting work. It was an internship, right? It turned out I got an offer to be an assistant controller when I graduated. I thought it was a decent opportunity. And it wasn't the best opportunity, but it was a good opportunity. And I was also dating my fiance now, Gabby. And I was like, I really can't leave her. I could, but like, I shouldn't. I want to be here because she was still playing soccer at Coastal at the time. So I said, okay, I'll stick it out here for another year when she graduates, and then we'll kind of figure it out, you know. So I became an intern for 3 months. I was an assistant controller starting in May. I worked an assistant controller all the way to November. My boss left. He got a promotion at USC. I said, hey, Wes, do you want to be the financial controller now?
Wow.
And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And it was such a good opportunity so fast, I was not expecting it at all. And I was honestly so happy, but I was also so confused. And, you know, the cards just fell into my place, and I honestly got lucky at the time. I did well, obviously. I did what I could, but, you know, I got a bit lucky at the time, and my boss fully supported as well. So I got to be a financial controller, and that was really just a lot of accounting work, projections, everything for the university around food service. Airmark's a food service company. I handled all their projections, all their accounting work. I had a small office, and I kind of ran all of that for 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, before I really started finding exactly what I want to do in my life. And during those 2.5, 3 years, I really started to break down what I wanted to do. Because while it was a great opportunity, it wasn't something that I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. And I knew that. And I think people around me knew that. So I really had to figure out, trial and error, what I liked, what I didn't like. And it was weird because I had a small office. I had a closet office, technically. There's no window. You go in the office, then you go in the closet, and there was my office. And kind of leading to what I do now, everyone would always come in my office and ask me anything about finance. What should I do with my money? What should I do with this? I was like, I'm not licensed to tell you any advice. This isn't my job technically, but I would love to help you out and see what I can do. And so Airmark, we had, 200 plus employees, and a lot of those conversations were just individual conversations with people on how I could help, what's coming out of your paycheck, why is it coming out, how much is going towards your investments, stuff like that. And that really sparked my interest, and I didn't know it until like 2 years later. I was like, I love working with people. I thought I always hated people. That's why I worked in an office by myself. But I love working with people and helping out problems and challenges and stuff like that, which leads to exactly what I'm doing now, is helping individuals, families, businesses on their financial planning and overall financial peace of mind, really. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but.
So you mentioned that part of your thought process as you were, looking to take on that, it was the assistant. What was the assisting job that you had?
Assistant controller.
Okay. As you were taking on that job, you were dating Gabby at the time.
Yep.
And it's interesting to me, at how old were you at the time? 21, 22?
Oh, 23, 22, 23, yeah. Yeah.
So, and the fact that that was even part of your thought process at that age. So you had been dating Gabby for how long at that point?
2 months.
2 months?
Yeah. 2 months early. And the craziest thing is, I did tell you a big backstory. I was dating another girl for 4 years before that, and I was supposed to be done in the fall, move back to Kansas City in the spring so we could move in together. That obviously did not work out. I ended up staying at Coastal in the spring, and I knew Gabby before, and we were good friends before, and then Gabby and I started dating in March, and just when you know, you know.
I guess so.
I think we both knew very early on. Gabs and I were just perfect for each other, to be honest. And I didn't want to move back to Kansas City. Talk about settling again. That's what I kind of feel like, especially now too. Moving back to Kansas City is just me settling because it's easy. I have a safety net. I have my parents. If something wrong happens. I have all my friends to support me. If I'm here, I don't have that. If I don't tell them, they'll never know. So it was just a leap of faith, and Gabby was a big reason. Even 2-3 months in was a big part of it, which sounds crazy, right? But yeah, it was.
You're absolutely right, though. It's like when you know, and it can come at any point in time.
Which came at a weird time, but.
Which you guys are getting married when?
Yeah, not until 2024.
2024?
23, 24. We just got our date set.
Wow. When did you propose?
July.
Wow. Yeah. How'd you propose? I'm curious.
Oh, this is a whole story. Gabby's going to love this if she hears this.
This episode's all about Gabby.
Yeah, of course. But so we met at Coastal. Obviously, we played soccer together. So I had a vision of going back to the Coastal soccer field and proposing where essentially we kind of first met, right? So got a photographer, and I told her, I was like, hey, look, I'm trying to work with this photographer. I'm trying to just kind of make her a client. We want to talk about stuff, don't make a big deal out of it. And she's like, okay, well, so she was also a bartender, and then she scheduled a bartending shift. So I had to call the manager of the place and say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I need you to help me out. And then we're going to come back to the Tavern in the Forest afterwards to celebrate and do all that stuff. So I had to coordinate her getting off work. I had to schedule the photography at a certain time. And she did the most amazing job. Janine Anderson, wonderful. She set up, we went to 3 different spots. And I didn't think of this. This was all her. She did a mix of pictures and videos. And it was the first spot of... what was your first impression of each other? The second spot, and we kind of talked about it, and she made a video and she took pictures. Second spot is, what are you guys thankful for? Video and pictures. Third spot is, what does your future look like together? And we took some pictures, and Gabby, please go first, because I was shaking at the time. Talk about being nervous. I was sweating like crazy. Gabby was holding my hand as we were walking. She's like, why are you so sweaty? I was like, it's just so hot out here, I was dripping sweat, so nervous. But we talked about kind of our future together, and and I stood up and got on one knee, and that was that. She captured the moment so nice. We have video of it. We have pictures of it. Gabby was fully surprised. She had no clue, which is what I was really hoping for. The most stressful thing was the photo shoot was at 6:00. The ring got shipped in at 2:30 that same day to one of my friend's place. Gabby showed up to that place at 2:35. Because one of our friends got shoulder surgery, so she's bringing her lunch. That ring got there 5 minutes before she showed up. And Chrissy, the girl that got the ring, threw it in her room, and Gabby came in and she had to hide it. So I was very stressed that day. Wow. But it turned out being the most perfect day. We went to, all of our friends were back at Tavern in the Forest. We all had drinks and popped champagne and all this stuff, and it was absolutely perfect.
Good for you, man. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, be a married man here. The clock's ticking.
I know, right? Getting old. I'm getting gray hairs here at 28 already. I'm getting stressed. So we've been working on the wedding planning stuff for the last couple weeks now. Finally got our venue set, and now just putting all the pieces together, really.
Aren't you supposed to just go in the other room and drink beer and leave everybody alone?
I really wish. I could. It's been so stressful.
Well, I mean, you could always just show Gabby clips from this and show how nicely you talked about her, and maybe win some points.
Yeah. My mom and her mom want to be involved so much, so I'm just letting them take the lead on a lot of stuff. Good. I'm saying, you guys can do this. I'm just here for approval or whatever. I'll say yes to everything. Yeah.
It's the Woman's Day. Well, what do you have planned for the future? What do you feel like this next chapter is going to look like? Because obviously that old. Oh my gosh. That's a whole new dynamic.
Yeah, a lot. I think, going back and defining what you're really passionate about and what you want to do is really setting goals for yourself as well. I have a lot of goals in 2023, work-related, non-work-related. So, for me, it's just about consistency and doing the right things and putting in the work. I've really found I love what I do. Every single day is something different. Every single day working with clients is a challenge. So providing the best value I can to take as many tests as I can to certify myself, to make sure I'm doing the right thing. In the professional world, it's really just about the grind, really. I got some of my goals or some of the tests I want to take. I want to do a designation FSCP, Financial Services Chartered Professional. I think I'm going to finish up in January, I'm hoping to. I got tests. I have Series 7. I have Series 66 to take. I have CLU, designations test, stuff like that. And now it's really just saving for a wedding and then just aligning Gabby's and my goals together. We bought a house together here in March. Shortly after the wedding, we'll probably talk about kids. I told her, wait till I'm 30, and then time goes really fast, and I'll be 30 in a year and a half. So, a lot of goals as a couple, a lot of goals, professional life and personal life of kind of what I want to do.
Where does having children, as far as a priority concerned, where does that sit in when you were even younger, how you looked at your future? I mean, I know for myself, that's the reason I'm here.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'm a big believer in whatever happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. If kids were to happen now, it happens for a reason. If it happens 2 years from now, it happens for a reason. I've always wanted kids, and for some, I've always wanted girls.
Really?
I don't want boys. I want all girls. I want twin girls. It's literally what I want in my life, and that's it.
We are polar opposite in that. I would be absolutely, and that's why I know it's going to happen to me. That's what, because I know it would test me to my limits. Yeah. Especially if my first was a girl, I would be absolutely petrified.
You see, it's weird because I never thought this. And then a lot of my friends that have kids now, they have a girl, they have a boy. And every time I'm with them, I get along with the girls so well. I don't get along with the boys. I don't know why. It's really strange to me, and I'll probably never understand it, but the only thing I want in my life is twin girls. That's it. And it kind of runs in my family for twins. So I've been pushing Gabby towards that. She's not for it, but like I said, whatever happens, happens.
That's right. There's only so much choice you get there.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, wedding, next spring, 2024, and then hopefully get some time after that. We'll see.
That's awesome.
And hopefully, girls.
Hey man, listen. You can take all the girls you want.
That's fun.
Maybe take all that energy out of this room, and we'll put that into you. And
I won't mind it one bit.
I'd love to just have 3 boys. Really? Just 3 boys just beating on each other, running around, wrecking shit. You give me 1 girl and it's going to cripple my world.
I don't know why I have the mindset, but I think my mom always wanted a girl too, and she got 2 boys. So every time a girl would come home, she would just try and be best friends, and it was just weird to me. I don't know. I mean, if I get a boy, awesome, but for some reason, just girls.
So I'm sure there's a lot of financial planning as well that goes into, looking towards starting a family within maybe the next 2 to 5 years. Yeah. And with getting married, you have a wedding. What are some of the ways that you or someone else in your position can prepare for that kind of a thing financially? Because that's a lot all at once.
Yeah, no, a lot of people that I talk to are younger individuals, younger families. So it's really just starting off with something, right? The first thing I really talk about is through life insurance. If you have a young family, make sure you're protected. Something I didn't mention earlier, being from Kansas City, technically from Independence, Missouri. If anyone looks up Independence, Missouri, it was the meth capital of the U.S. when I was born. It's not a great place to be. Wow. But I have a lot of friends there, families there, everything. And unfortunately, I've had a lot of my friends, more people that I can count on my hands that have died prematurely for various reasons. So I always encourage, especially when you have a young family, make sure no matter what happens to you, no matter what happens to your family, they're going to be okay. Something could happen to anyone any day. I know we're young, but I've seen it firsthand to so many of my friends. Make sure you're protected, that your family's going to be okay. Just because in the situations that I've seen, something has happened to an individual, and their whole family is scrambling for things. So the first thing I always encourage is make sure you're protected with life insurance. Make sure you know what you have. Second piece is find out what your goals are and prioritize them. If your goal is going on vacation a year, what does that look like savings-wise? And it's really just aligning your goals with how I can essentially help, right? Is making sure you're protected, making sure you have investments in place, and making sure you want to retire at a certain age. And it's different for everyone. Someone that owns their own business is completely separate. Someone that works hourly salary, that's what I love about it the most. Is no one is the same at all. We could be very similar, but it's still very, very different. And every single situation is different. So starting the financial plan is just use your resources. I know everyone wants to go on YouTube and they want to go on TikTok and get all their financial advice. And I'm all for financial education. Go out there and learn as much stuff as you can, but make sure you work with someone that really knows what they're talking about, and making sure you're finding something that aligns your goals with theirs as well, to try and figure out what the best plan of action is. So like for Gabby and I, to get a wedding, what does it look like per month? What does it look like a year? How much do we need to save? It's a great question. It's stuff I've brought up with her parents that want help with the wedding. Same with mine. How much we need. We want to buy a house by 2024. We want to have kids. What does that budget mean? How much do we need to save? So, and that's the thing. It's not always a static goal. It's constantly changing. Every single week it might change. Being in a commission job, and Gabby is as well. 1 week could be great. 1 week could be miserable. So it's trying to figure out what the ups and downs are, and just making sure you're bringing yourself to that same goal at the end of the day.
Are you base plus commission in your position?
Nope, I am strictly commission.
Really?
100%.
You do well?
I do well.
Do well for yourself.
Yeah, I think anyone going in a commission job, it's terrifying. And I didn't take this job a year prior because of that worry. Being in a comfortable salary spot, doing well for yourself, it's tough to say, hey, I'm going to go to commission. I could make this much, and I also could make zero. And that's the reality of it. But I think that, you know, if you have the determination, like I said before, the passion, the grind to do things, you should go commission because you're not going to let yourself fail. And if you do, you can't blame anyone else. At the end of the day, you're the only one you can blame for. There's no excuses in it. But the first 6 months was a massive challenge because it was such an adjustment. Going to the office at 8, leave at 5. That was me before. No matter what I did, I got paid the same. I could leave early, I could stay late, I could do whatever. Paycheck came in all the same. This, if I want to go in a couple hours, then I want to go home and watch TV or go watch the World Cup like I've been doing the last couple of weeks, cool, I make no money. If I want to go out and work and actually grind, you can make unlimited amounts of money. But yeah, it's a massive mindset, a massive difference in kind of starting that out as well.
I'm a huge fan of what you just said too. It's, you know, it does, you're right. It does takes a certain type of person to to take on a commission-based job, or to take on, for myself, it was starting a business. Yeah. It's, you know, I'm going to get paid based upon the amount of work that I'm willing to do. But also, you know, something that a lot of people get fucked up is they look at it from like, oh, it's all about how hard you work. Wait till you get those 10,000 hours under your belt and you start approaching that level of mastery within something. Yeah. And all of a sudden you learn there is so much more scalability in learning to work smarter, and not harder. Yeah. Learning how to create opportunities where you can leverage tools, software, people, human resources, all these different things. But it's, to me, you know, every job I worked in high school through college, you know, obviously anybody that age tends to be working, you know, your typical 9 to 5 or your paycheck kind of job. And no matter how many of those jobs I worked, though, my last job I worked was my senior year of college. I worked as a security guard. I worked as a security guard for 4 years. Okay. But I remember I never grew attached to showing up on that second Friday every 2 weeks and getting the paycheck. I never felt the compulsion towards that. Mm-hmm. In fact, if anything, I felt almost like a distaste, especially when it's like myself and like something that really changed the whole paradigm for me around paychecks and pay scale. And, you know, you reap what you sow is when I was working at that security job, or that security guard job. And one of the other guys in the shack was making $5 or $6 more an hour than me. And we showed up at the exact same time, did the same job, and had been there the same amount of time. Yep. But he was older than me. And I said to myself, I'm never going to let this happen again. I will never be just paid based upon the value that someone else wants to put on me. I will be paid. I'm going to make money that is a direct correlation or direct reflection of the value that I'm able to give to others. So if I, you know, in my nature of business, running a digital marketing agency, you know, the only way that I succeed is through my client success. Unless there are a lot of agencies out there, probably a good 80, 90% of them that are just churn and burn. You know, they get the clients in, get them on the 3-month initial retainer. No, they're going to leave after the 3rd month, but it doesn't matter because you just generated, you know, $5,000-$6,000 in revenue and you're on to the next one. Repeat, yeah. Just churn and burn. But, you know, for me, I always wanted to establish the long-term relationships. But it was so funny because I talked about this on a recent podcast, I think, with somebody. My first year in business, running it out of my parents' basement, I had just graduated from college. I remember my entire family saying, like, you going to get a job now? Like, what's the deal? I said, no, I had launched the agency while I was still in college. I told myself, I made a promise to myself. I said, if I get one client while I'm still going to school, I'm taking this thing on full time for at least 6 months after I graduate. And I did. Took it on full time. And my first year, I sacrificed I probably could have gone in the job field, probably could have found a job with 35 to 45,000 a year salary, fairly easily. Had the whole internship experience. I did really well in school. Instead, I decided to start a business, and I made $8,000 my first year. And I mean, I was probably working twice as many hours as I would have been for any job. But I was passionate about it every minute of every day. Second year, maybe made 28,000. Still, I mean, everybody's nothing. Like, look at that, the growth, like this and that. I'm like, I'm still nothing. I'm still making half as much as I could working a quarter of the amount of hours or a third of the amount of hours that I'm working. Like, you don't understand that. But for me, it was the opportunity cost and I'm still working away at it now. And I think I'm like 3.5 years in or something like that. And I've always loved scalability, though. You know, pay me based on what I can do.
And that's the mindset you have to have, right? I mean, my mentor has said, especially in any commission job or starting a business, you are underpaid and overworked for the first, maybe say 5 years. But then after those 5 years, you are overpaid and underworked for the rest of your life. It's really the mindset you have to have. I mean, I call salary jobs a trap in a way. And again, commission, all that creating a business isn't for everyone. I understand that. But, you know, there was weeks that I was getting paid the same amount working 60 hours and I was doing 40 hours. There was no overtime. There was no added value. Your review came around and you get a 2% inflation raise, you know, so it goes to 50 to 51 and you're like, oh my gosh, I get paid so much more. And I mean, that's the thing, that the mindset I wanted to have too is, you know, I wanted to take the job that I do now a year prior, but COVID happened and I got scared. And I was obviously still young, 25, you know, and I told myself, you know, give it a year, you'll figure it out. You're still making money. You're going to be okay, you know. So I made enough money, and talk about financial planning. I set myself up to have a cushion. So if I started a new job and I didn't make any money for 6 months, I'm still okay.
Wow. Contingency fund.
Exactly. So once I took that, you know, it was a leap of faith, but the mindset that you have to have and the drive and the passion, it has to be there. You could work a commission job, and if you don't really love what you do, I don't think you're ever going to grow or scale or anything like that. But any job, starting a business, being commissioned, you have to have that mindset of every single day you have to wake up and you have to go freaking grind. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday morning, if it's Monday night, you're always working somehow, some way to better your business or to better yourself. And that's what I've tried to really teach myself. And I figured out a lot about myself just doing that as well. Like I said, the first 6 months, it was a challenge for me, and I did not make a lot of money. And then it was month, you know, my partner and I were looking at my numbers like, you know, you didn't really start working until month 8. Month 8, I figured it out. You know, I'm not going to say figured out because I haven't figured it out yet, but I started to understand, and my numbers started to reflect it. And then I started to realize, what am I doing different? I'm not going home early. I'm staying late. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. I'm doing stuff on the weekends. I'm not taking time off. I have to keep doing that every single week, day in and day out. Get a nice little break over Christmas, yeah, but, you know, that mindset that you have to have, and even if you don't make a lot, know the long game. Know where your vision's going, where it could go, because it could set you up for the rest of your life, which I think is what you're going into as well, right? Yeah, first year or two, you know, you're not doing much, but you still have the vision. You still have the mindset that it's possible to do. You can't do that in any salary job.
Never.
You're doing the same thing. You got your 2 weeks of vacation. You got your 8 to 5. You don't have your freedom and flexibility. That's one of the biggest things is I want that freedom and flexibility for myself, and I want it for my kids someday. I don't want to have to worry about going into work every single day when I want to spend time with them some days. So really trying to accelerate that in the next couple of years to lay off a little bit, but these next 2 years, day in and day out, because the moment that I have kids, I want to be with them all the time, you know. So I think it just goes back into the mindset of things and just seeing the overall vision of yourself and where you want to go.
You obviously have a strong level of, or a strong aptitude towards self-motivating yourself, which is just mandatory to make it in any kind of a scenario like that or a job like that. What are some of the ways that you have found to best motivate yourself? I know some people will to get yourself in that frame of mind or get hyped up? Or is that really just kind of your natural innate tendency is just to do what must be done?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit on myself as well. And I'll also say self-motivation can only go, I'm not going to say only go so far, but you need to have people around you that have the same mindset. Someone told me long ago, and it's everywhere, right? Surround yourself with 4 or 5 successful people, and you'll be the next one. Surround yourself with 4 or 5 bums, you're going to be a bum. So taking that approach of self-motivation and the determination of where you want to be, and just surrounding yourself with people that are like that as well. I've surrounded myself with a lot of people in work that have that same exact mindset of every single day, let's go out and get it. There's no excuses. You're not doing this. If you're sick, I don't freaking care. You're going to make calls. You're going to do something. And I've surrounded myself with really, really good individuals around here in Myrtle Beach. I mean, Ulitza Cronemeyer, Pat Piscatelli here. I have people in Charleston I work with, people back at home, my parents still, just surrounding yourself with those individuals. I mean, the self-motivation, like I said, there's days you're going to be down on yourself that you come home and I get home, Gabby asks how my day was. Well, it was pretty shit. I had 3 cancels. I didn't close on anything, and tomorrow's a different day. Yep. What are you going to do tonight to change that? And her starting her job as well, it's the same exact thing. Is you can get so in your head, and I've seen so many people come into the industry and they're done by 6 months. The financial industry, fun fact, and especially life insurance, for an agent to make it 3 years, guess what the success rate is?
I'll bet you it's less than 20%.
11%. 11% of people that finish after, or make it through 3 years, which blew my mind. And it was also, if I was scared before, that scared the shit out of me afterwards hearing that. Am I going to be part of that 11% or am I going to be part of that, 80, 89%? So, I mean, just surround yourself with good people. Keep your self-motivation, keep your self-discipline, and just keep on with consistent activity, really. Everyone has spurs of motivation. They can go watch a motivational video before the gym and take some pre-workout and get going and do all that stuff. But you have to know how to do it every single day consistently.
So I know I already asked you off the record, but you think you're going to make a career out of selling the life insurance?
I do. Just starting out, I saw the longevity of it, the potential of it. And I've got to talk to a lot of people that have been in the industry 20, 30, 40 plus years. Got to go to a big thing we call Executive Council, which is like one of our milestones that we want to reach. And I got to talk with people that have been in the industry for top leaders in the industry for 30, 40 years. And, I was hooked pretty fast. This is something I definitely want to do. I think I really found what I want to do for the rest of my life. Sounds weird, but when you know, like I said before, I can really see myself doing this till I get really, really old, probably.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How old do you want to work to? What's that dream retirement age?
Maybe never fully retire, but honestly, by the time I'm like 50, I want to scale back heavily and really just vacation and enjoy life. 45, 50. 45 is a stretch, right? But 50, I think, is a pretty good goal to have. But I don't think I'll ever fully retire, honestly. People in our industry, they have retirement contracts, but they passively work and they have assistants and stuff like that. But yeah, I want to do a lot of traveling. I've been doing that quite a bit the last couple of years, but I want to heavily do that.
What is it about travel that brings about that emotion or that excitement for you?
So I went to Coastal, and I'd never been out of the country before I went to Coastal. And I was one of 3 Americans on the soccer team. Every single person was foreign. And after graduated college, I got to go to Dubai for the first time. That was my first time out of the country.
You went to Dubai?
Dubai. My roommate is from Abu Dhabi. We went to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and you talk about the trip of a lifetime. I went on the best trip possible for my first time out of the country. And I have a lot of my roommates, a lot of my friends. Like I went to Costa Rica a few months ago. My old roommate, Yobo, lives there. I got to see so many things. I have another roommate that's in Mexico, Norway, England, France. All these places to go. I have family in Amsterdam. To experience the different cultures and just understand different ways of living is so fun to experience. And there's really, I mean, for me, there's nothing like it to get to experience with that and have a guy that takes you around the city and makes you feel kind of like a local, to take you to the local spots and not a tourist. No resorts, nothing like that. And no one can speak English, and you're the only one that knows it. You know, it's just, it's really life-changing for me, and it's such a cool experience.
One of the strongest assets to have is friends in different locations around the world.
100%.
Because then you're not going as, it's not like you're going as a tourist and, you know, you're just visiting some of these locations and trying to figure your way out. Like, they know the ins and outs. They know what it is that you're going to actually want to see.
Yeah. So I went to 2 years ago, Gabby and I went to London and we went to Amsterdam. London, we didn't really know anyone there. So we went around, did our own thing. It was fine, right? We looked up things to do. Went to Amsterdam. My aunt and uncle live there. And talk about the best experience I've ever had, and just all the local stuff, and have a home cooked meal, and to stay at their place, and they took us to all the spots to go to. I'd go back there tomorrow if I could. It's awesome. It really is.
As far as your job is concerned, do you have any level of location freedom?
Yeah, I can work around all the U.S. I have clients in Missouri, Kansas, Utah, New York, North Dakota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. I can work all in the U.S., which is a thing I love to do too, because it also gives me an excuse that if I have to travel somewhere, I can just go visit them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think is undervalued. You know, is a lot of people think about achieving financial freedom, but location freedom is this whole other complement to that.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays, you know, to have location freedom, in my world and the way my head works, it's like a necessity. Like, I need to be able to move if opportunity, you know, if there's a drought, or if, you know, there's just, if I see, like, I've been even looking recently at like what's going on in Austin, Texas, and like Miami, and seeing this.
I was just in Austin a few months ago.
How is Austin, Texas?
It's very different. I mean, being in Myrtle Beach for a while, then you go to a city. It's an up and coming city, that's for sure, though. There's a lot of new things coming there, and you can kind of see just the people and the environment that's around. It's a younger generation of people that are coming up in Austin. It was a cool environment, though.
That's what I've read.
Yeah.
Austin and Miami are, I think, the top two cities, Austin being first, for growing young entrepreneurial cities.
Yeah. Keep Austin weird. That was everywhere.
Keep Austin
weird. I promise. There's shirts and all this stuff.
It's probably just a warning to all those Californians that are coming
in. But I saw it everywhere in Austin. But it was a really cool city. And I've been to Miami multiple times as well, and I freaking love Miami.
I've never been to Miami.
No? Yeah, you gotta go.
I've been to Orlando, St. Augustine. I love St. Augustine, man.
It's pretty.
St. Augustine's the place you go when you're looking for kind of more of an intimate level of experience with either like some close friends or you know, you've got a girlfriend or someone like that, like
nice, quiet, pretty,
very quiet, beautiful. Yeah. I went to, and I've told myself I'm going back there next year. It was this bar right in the city of St. Augustine, the old downtown city, and there was this bar called Stogie's, and it's like a cigar lounge bar.
Okay.
You go in, it's all the leather seating. It's very like the traditional bar scene, luxury. Yeah. And I'm in there, this beach bar, and, you know, they had advertised that it was like a cigar lounge / beer, and they had all the outdoor patio seating and music. And I went in, and you go up and you order, with any draft beer that you order, they hand you a fat cigar. They cut it for you. They hand it to you with your draft beer. You walk outside, you light it.
Sign me up for that.
I'll let you know when I go.
That'd be nice.
That was a blast. Okay, here comes the final heaviest question of the evening. Okay. When your time finally comes to leave this world, what do you want to be remembered for? And what kind of an impact do you want to have left?
What a question. I think the biggest thing for me is just leaving a legacy for myself and my family. And that's it's weird that I say it because it's what I talk about every day, right? I mean, I talk about life insurance. Do you want to leave a legacy for a family? What do you want to leave them? And the biggest thing for me is just my family in general. I mean, other people can have their perceptions or whatever it is, just to be known to be a good person. To be a good person to my friends, to be a good person to my family, to not really miss out on anything. I think what I've experienced too in the last couple of years or two, I mean, I just had a coworker that worked under me at my old job that passed away 2 weeks ago. Life happens so freaking fast. And I got to talk with her and her husband a lot. Gabby and I used to go to their house, have drinks with them and stuff. Life goes by so fast. So have no regrets. Really live life to the fullest and just be a good person to all your friends. Never say, I wish I would have done this. I wish I could have done more, just never have that regret of, I wish I would have done more, instead of just do everything you can do. You can't do everything, but, do as much as you can, work as hard as you can, be the best person you can to your friends, your family, just live a good overall life, which sounds pretty cheesy maybe, but
Not at all.
A lot of people have known a lot of people that have passed away of, I wish I would have seen this person again. I wish I would have done this. And then you think of the things that I wish I would have seen this person back in Florida. Gabby had her grandpa die last year, and I wish I would have seen him more. Well, you got to see him quite a bit, but, what's stopping you from seeing someone else more? Is there someone stopping you to fly across, to go to Europe to see a family member, I mean, go do those things. Enjoy life. If you take risks, just enjoy everything. Don't have any regrets. And it's easy to say, it's very hard to do. There's a bit of risk and reward in that in making those decisions. But just do everything you can do. I try and lay in bed every night and say, did I do everything I could do today? Take it one day at a time. Set plans with family. Do all that stuff. Do everything you can.
Absolutely, man.
Best I got.
Well said.
Thank you.
Wes, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I will let you know this probably won't be the last time.
Yeah.
We'll have you back on. Something that we are doing with the podcast as of recent is mixing and matching guests. So a lot of times I like to really have the one-on-one with somebody, especially if, I don't know them as well off the podcast. I think it's interesting. It's fun to be able to talk to you about your story, get to know you. Yeah. But then kind of it's two-sided. One is we've just been having people on again that are interesting, that have a good perspective on things like this that can add value to the audience. Yeah. Because it's not like I have an unlimited pool of young, driven guys to pull from.
Not in Myrtle Beach.
No, not here. And so the reality is I'd love to have you back on. And then another thing we've been doing, which we'll get you involved in, is kind of doing like a past or former guest shuffle, which is pretty fun. It's so interesting how you and I can sit here and have one conversation, and I'll just throw one of the other former guests in here who's also been on, but you two have never been on together. And some really cool conversations have been coming in it.
Yeah, cool. Love it.
We can get Tim in here. We can get.
Oh yeah, bring Tim in here. He'd love it.
We'll get Tim.
He'd love it too. Yeah. Bring him in here.
He does love it.
To have to talk with him.
He thrives in a podcast environment. Tim, we're coming for you.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you all on the next episode.